Good evening, everybody.
Hello, folks. How are you doing? As you can
Hi.
see, we're still in boxes.
Yeah, look. Little tiny boxes. Our own little tiny boxes. You have a box, and you have a box. Exactly. It's
Yes,
nice.
indeed. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the show.
Mm-hmm.
Before we go any further, I think the best way I could describe this is if we have a piece of advice for you tonight, it is this: pay no attention to the outside.
Yeah.
We are acutely aware that, even more so than usual in this, the year of our Lord 2020, Jesus H. Christ, could we not? Things are very, very, very dark.
It's been a very difficult couple of days in the news, and it's ongoing, and this is a chance to kind of put all of that aside for a couple of hours.
Yes.
And if that's a space you need to be in, that's fine. But that's not what we're going to be doing tonight. So please make sure you make the right choices for yourself about how and when you engage with things. This is a VOD. There will always be VOD holla for you. Tonight we're going to do some spooky stories and some funniness, and we're not going to talk about real world events.
Bruno, absolutely on the table. Real world stuff, not remotely.
Bruno?
As in, we don't talk about Bruno from
Oh. I still
Encanto.
haven't seen
Yeah,
that.
me neither.
We should add that to the list of things we're going to do. So next weekend in the UK is the Queen's Jubilee celebration 70. Imagine you having a party because you were still in your job at 94 after 70 years. Apparently that's a thing this country wants to celebrate and not hold up as a gold standard of
I just want to add it
failure
into
of
the
care.
record about how well behaved I'm being.
Yes.
Thank you. Continue.
Exactly, but that is happening next weekend. So a lot of the UK has a 4-day weekend. So um, when the Olympics happened and everybody was throwing parties all over the time and it was very high energy, yay, all the time. Yeah, we're gonna hide in the house for 4 days. So we've started building a list of all the things we want to do for the Jubilee weekend. They
And
involve.
speaking of building,
Okay, you may go now. Go. Go. Tell everybody what
I
you
was
got. You're
I was
very
setting you
excited.
up.
Do you want me to set? All right. So 2 nights ago, we were in bed. It was midnight. And I got an email on my phone because I was bad. And I checked my phone before I went to bed. And the tall neck notification email came through. So we were like, should we just get up in the morning? I'm like, no, no, go, scramble, scramble. So we had to like run out of bed at midnight into the office and order the tall neck. And I'm glad we did because the next morning we got up, we checked it, and it was out of stock again. So we go ahead.
Our plan for the Jubilee weekend is there is a 5-day event on Apple TV called Prehistoric Planet.
Is it an event? I thought it was just like a series and it was on now.
It's being described as an event.
An event. We're having an event. I see.
So we are going to watch lots of dinosaurs and build a robotic dinosaur.
So apparently this is, you know how David Attenborough narrated Planet Earth and Planet Ocean and all the lovely, wonderful, chill planet stuff? Well, he's doing one with dinosaurs. And so we're going to watch that and build a Lego tall neck and probably bake a cheesecake and just avoid
and attend Archive Con.
crowds. Say again?
And attend Archive Con.
And attend Archive Con. Yes, exactly. Oh gosh, I just realized how. Wait, that's also EA weekend. Oh crap, we're not gonna have as much downtime as I thought, honey. That or we're gonna have to build the Lego really early. We'll have a lovely day off, and then we will do all the things. So, relationship goals: to have someone who gets out of bed to order a Lego with you. Well, yes, I love you too, sweetheart. One of you desperately wants the Lego set. The other one of you stocks it on the website and makes sure to get email notifications when it comes back up in stock.
Yes.
So yes, that's what it's going to be like.
I'll be also going to tell the nice people the news from the rest of the week that is good that happened to you.
I passed my driving test, finally. It has been a saga. It has been difficult and stressful and time-consuming and slightly expensive. But it's done now, and my stomach has gotten rid of all of the, adrenaline that I've been sitting on for a month. So now I'm legally qualified to drive on both sides of the road. So does that mean I get to drive in the middle?
Yes.
And everybody else just has to move? Wouldn't that be wonderful? Wouldn't that be wonderful?
Just got to put the cattle catcher on the front. Just...
You laugh, but oh man, I'd do that in a heartbeat. Just rent a big old F-250 and be like, get out of my way, y'all! That would be funny. if you get 2 licenses, they cancel out and glitch. You get into a pilot's license.
She can hear you.
Pilot's license. I might put that on the list. I put it on the list. There we
A friend
go.
of mine at school actually had a pilot's license. She was the youngest pilot in the country at that time to qualify.
No, they don't even have F-250s over here. I think I have seen one, what I would properly call a pickup truck in this entire country. Like one. You get the convertibles. I mean, the Toyota, they sell a Highlander here in the UK now, and that is a car with a back and a backpack. Okay. A little bit of context here. I grew up in California. More importantly, I grew up on the West Coast, and I used to live on a farm when I was a kid. That's how I learned how to drive. I learned to drive stick in a pickup truck because we were doing hay baling. And my sister, who was about maybe 5 foot, but a professional auto mechanic, has inherited one of those family traits that I also possess, which is I need a big car so that I'm the tallest person on the road, because otherwise I feel very short. And so my sister drives a full-blown Suburban, and this is a car with 3 bench seats. So she has what she calls the backpack, and the backety back, which are the foldable down extra seats. So she can carry like 9 adults in this car. It deserves its own zip code. It's ginormous. I do not need a car that big. Don't even really want a car that big because I don't quite have a need for it. But I do not like to drive roller skates. Put it this way. I don't want to have to sit down into a car. I want to have to step up into a car. So that's what I'm looking for. And did I start looking for cars
About 2 hours
the
later.
evening I passed my test? Why, yes. Yes, I did. God.
I was just going to say it was amazing because,
Because
I can literally finish the sentence.
Hello, Anil and the raid. How is everybody's doing?
Anil,
As long as the
how are you?
nose is
And
low
hello,
enough that you
raid.
can see people. I'm decently tall, so me in a tall car, that's fine. I just don't want to be like this. I want to be like this. Hello to the raid. Thank you very much for joining us. We are just
folks.
getting started. Alasdair was just about to tell us the 3 things that we do on this show.
We do, yeah, this is exceptionally good timing.
It's almost like I set you up.
We do 3 things on this show. The
There you
first one is we provide an opening monologue, which is essentially a chance for you to get situated, make sure you have some water, a snack, you take any meds you might need, your pets are squared away, the laser pointer is tied to the Roomba, so the cat's in the other room, all of that good stuff.
All of that good stuff.
Then we will do, this week, the second part of a story called A Warning to the Curious by M.R. James, which is a all-time classic spooky story.
Spooky story about the English countryside and just pals helping each other out
Just
on an
pals
impromptu
doing
archaeology exploration where nothing could possibly go wrong.
Our friend Premi Mohammed, who is now our Nebula award-winning friend, Premi
Yes, well
Mohammed,
done,
for one
Premi.
of her incredible novellas, posted one of those perfect tweets earlier in the week about M.R. James, where she said, "This is my experience with literally every single M.R. James story. 1, well, this isn't spooky at all. 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, what the fuck?"
Yeah. That's very much our experience. And M.R. James is one of those classics who likes to do stories within stories, so they're quite layered. We're going to do a little bit of a recap and a little bit of a backup to start tonight, so don't worry, everybody. You won't be lost when we go. Exactly, Pezzy. I'm sure it'll be just fine.
And then we do what we refer to as shenanigans.
Shenanigans.
This is essentially brain sorbet, because when we first started doing this, getting on for what, 2 years ago now?
Oh, don't do math. I think it has. I think it's been 2 years because we started streaming right around the lockdown in 2020, and that was over 2 years ago now. So, oof.
Hey, look, it's another anniversary we could forget we have.
Oh,
Great.
yeah. We have a long tradition of realizing a week later, hey, didn't we have an anniversary? Oh, yeah, okay. And then we just go back to work. That's very us.
Basically, when we started off, in particular, we did this series
Right,
of
Hawkeye, who
fantastic
needs time?
and unfucking believably unsettling stories. And in a desperate attempt to not give me nightmares, we decided to wrap this up in a whole kind of, well, we don't want to traumatize the audience bow, and finish each show with something silly.
Yes.
And
so there will be some nice lighthearted silliness to send you off to bed on, as opposed to, nightmare fuel.
yes, incidentally, throwing it all the way back.
Speaking of nightmare fuel, we should probably do a quick recap just for the stream that we are not going to be discussing real world events this evening. This is going to be an escapist evening. We are going to take all of the fire and put it over there.
In a
and
corner.
Tonight we are going to do just the spookies. The nice lighthearted
just the spookies.
Exactly. An escape artist evening. It's very
Beautifully
escapist.
realized.
Well
Thank
done,
you.
Hawkeye. Very well done.
And even better, for the first time in a year, the bedroom door now has a functioning.
Yeah, don't ask me why, but the latch on the door broke and they wouldn't fix it forever. And we've had this really weird weather in our part of the woods the last couple of days, where it'll be like gray, and then it'll become bright, beautiful sunshine, and then it will pour for 6 minutes, and like the wind and the rain and the doors will bang and blah blah blah, and then it's pretty again. I'm like, okay, so the weather is how I feel right now.
It's a little bit like Thor is very overexcited that he has a new movie.
Yes, an excellent point, Mighty Bon. It is a glorious 25th of May. For those folks who don't know, and I'm winging it here because please don't lynch. Please don't get upset at me. I am not a Pratchett fan. I have Pratchett respect and admiration, but I am not in the Pratchett fandom. But I do know that today, the 25th of May, is one of those important dates in Pratchett stories, and you're supposed to wear lilac. That's all I know. And that is today. I know.
You now know more than me.
My beloved Uncle Brian, who's the relative that introduced me to my lifelong love of genre fiction, science fiction, and fantasy, loves Pratchett wholly and completely. And I have tried many times in many books, and it's just his writing and my engagement just do not. Same with like Good Omens. TV show was fine. The prose, bounce. It's not. I do not possess that deep kind of sense of embarrassment appreciation that comes from a lot of cornerstone British genre fiction, and it's just not there for me. Like Mr. Bean, you are a silly man who falls down a lot, and I guess I'm supposed to feel sorry for you, and I don't understand why everybody's laughing hilariously. I love that other people love it, and I love watching people who enjoy it, but I myself don't have the same reaction that other people have to it.
This is very similar to my deep abiding love in some ways for awful, awful emergency services television.
I am being very vulnerable in front of an audience of genre fiction fans. I am putting it very much on the line
putting it on
here
the line,
tonight.
and we love and respect you for it.
Even worse. Okay, you want to talk about putting myself on the line with genre fiction fans? I grew up on Mercedes Lackey books. It's been a very difficult week for me, shall we say. Let's move on!
Yeah, steering a little bit away from the real world Binfire. My version of that is June.
Hey, Mick.
Everyone told me that June was fantastic.
Dune?
And yes, June, like I said.
Dune, it's a dry read.
Let's just do the opening monologue.
Oh, come on! I get one pun in! You can recover from that! You were saying...
I just... You stole my line! Kind of got me boxed in here.
Snarky comments or sullen silence?
This is the first time in my life I have been the teenage girl in this conversation.
Hand in the boxed in. Ooh, well done, Rat. Well done. Very well. You were saying.
I was saying, Yeah, June.
Hon, your mic's migrated just a little bit, it looks like. People need you to be louder.
All my life I've waited for this moment. Um,
Is that...
I bounced off the book a couple of times. I did a couple of the tabletop RPG sessions, which were fun, but that was it. And I watched the amazingly young James McAvoy TV show, and also the hilarious David Lynch movie. And
The McAvoy TV show was not Dune, that was Children of Dune.
yes, it was, but it's Dune-esque.
It had
So
better music.
dangerous.
It was a later
Dangerous.
series. Let's not get into it. The best advice I ever had with Dune, of which there are like 12, is read the first one and stop.
Just stop there.
Just stop.
I-
You've got
I-
enough context. It was AP English for me, advanced English, when I was in high school.
Aren't we just like one book off the Eternal Jason Momoa stuff? Because I'm kind of there for that.
Yeah. You're welcome, Mick. I would love to talk to Mick more about... We haven't had a chance to watch the film yet, but Mick and a lot of the St. Kilda crew
Yes.
were up in Edinburgh last week and doing a 48-hour film challenge. And we found out about this, and then we sent them money for pizza because we weren't going to drive to Edinburgh spontaneously to be able to take place. My AP English class, yes, we read Dune, and then we watched the television show. And this will tell you exactly too much about my age, is that I sat and then watched the movie, and then I saw the characters and I went, when did Patrick Stewart get hair? Because I was a Star Trek The Next Generation fan. And it really, birds of cattle, defend yourself. It got very confusing.
It is going to be very strange for me to eventually circle back around to Foundation, which is the other classic I've never read, having seen and hugely enjoyed the TV show. And it's going to be, I would imagine, like playing Mass Effect with enforced broship. Because just going to keep going, who the fuck is this dude?
Who is
What
this
the hell?
dude? And yes, Mighty Bon, I went to high school in the United States, and genre fiction was part of the English curriculum. Not just, Old Man in the Sea and Where the Red Fern Grows and all that, but we read Dune, and we read Mist of Avalon, and I think we read the first Foundation for English as well. It has been too long for me to remember what my high school English curricula was, I'm afraid.
The closest I got to any of that, I was taught English by my dad, because he was the head of English at the school in our region, which everything you're imagining about my adolescence, yeah, and more. But I had very much half his sense of humor, and so we got to this point which you sometimes get to in English schools, where about 3 or 4 weeks off the end of term, you've done everything. So with our chemistry teacher, when we got to this, he looked around with the look only arsonists have, and said, "Any requests?"
Oh God!
And we all went, "Magnesium," and he went, "I was hoping you'd say that."
Oh my!
And that was the day I learned that magnesium is the principal component of metal pencil sharpeners.
So he just jury-rigged it.
Heat them long enough, they just cook off. It's great. But when we got to that point...
Warning! Please do not go out and try that. I mean, I don't know where you could find a manual pencil sharpener in a classroom these days. But if you do find one, please don't heat it up until it explodes and come blame us.
And the version of that we got to with English was we finished studying Hamlet, and then we watched...
Wendy!
And then we watched Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead.
Oh, I will one-up you with that. So, when I was in California, there was a local Shakespeare company, and what you would do is you would buy tickets for the whole season, and they do 4 plays a year. And my very favorite year, and I think maybe even my last that I went to it, I can't remember, gorgeous outdoor amphitheater. They did Hamlet. And then the next play, they did Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead with the same actors in the same roles.
I love that.
Which was so good. It was very, 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 very good.
If you've never seen the movie version of Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are Dead and you like this type of mess, please do.
Yes, firstly, Wendy, Tim Roth, and Gary Oldman, my beloveds. Oh, they can't see, honey.
That, you can't really see it, but my second tattoo is the opening line of the play.
Hi, Corvid.
And yeah, the movie is Tim Roth and Gary Oldman, and Richard Dreyfuss is the player king. And I saw this for the first time around the same time I was still doing stage magic, and I ripped off everything. I mean everything. I think I actually used to walk on stage and go, "An audience! don't move,
Of course
and
he
then
did.
go and get set up.
And I think the people who like the Butlerian Jihad are the same people who like the Silmarillion, in that they're there for like the deep historical knowledge more than they are the like more adventure story written element of things. And I have read both, and I don't recommend either. And I'm so glad that now they're going to make a TV show of the Silmarillion we can all actually engage with, as opposed to having
Thank you, Bonnie. I will do.
go through all of
That
that.
sounds like a fantastic piece of casting.
Huh.
Daniel Radcliffe in Rosencrantz and Guildenstern are dead.
Oh, that would be delightful.
Little fella.
I cannot wait to see him in the Weird Al Yankovic
Oh
biopic.
my god.
That looks so ridiculously phenomenal. It's going to be really, really good.
Does anyone have an accordion?
Yes, exactly. Exactly. Okay, so we're going to break our record here if we don't move on with things. So this is part 0 of the show, where we get around to actually doing what we're supposed to be doing.
We actually do 4 things.
Yes, exactly. You should have said this is thing 0. Well, there's another thing that we should probably do. Because
The Chungus?
Chungus
He
has an adorable new hat.
Look at his hat. Look at their little sun hat.
Wendy, I want one of these. See, I'm like, I want to steal it from Chungus and wear it on my head. Folks who are new to the chat, this is Chungus. This is our yeasty lad, our absolute unit son, our, as you can see from the year, almost 2-year-old sourdough starter now. And he has a brand new hat from Wendy, which is very adorable, and which I'm totally gonna steal. It doesn't really work with the... but I bet it would fit on Beeps, too. Hold on.
Wendy just said she still has your head measurements, so she can absolutely make you one. Look at Beeps.
And now Beeps has a sun hat as well. Oh, Nico, look. Adorable Beeps. Yes, we have a Beeps hat for Chungus. Okay. Wait a minute, the last time we did this, we got a video out of it. Okay. Dun, dun, dun. Okay, alright, I've had entirely too much fun now. Marguerite, put it down. Okay, I've made myself too excited. Alright, we should move swiftly on.
First off, thank you very much to Get ArchiveCon for the guest announcement graphics that we opened with.
Yes!
And
that's the thing that we're doing next weekend. I think we have 4 different events that we're doing over the course of the weekend. Do you remember what they all are?
No.
I do. Okay, the first is we're going to talk about fan art versus IP owners, and like what is the deal with some people saying you can do things and some people saying you can't do things, and what things you should say and what things you can't say and all that good stuff. We're going to get to talk all about that. Marguerite, get some hairpins and clips so you can wear all of Chungus's hat as Fascinator. Well, what I thought I would do is I would get like another jar lid that's the same size and glue it on a headband, and then I could just put them on top, and then I could wear them as Fascinators. Yes, absolutely.
I love that you have thought this through.
Okay, I got derailed. I got too excited again. Okay. So I'm going to do a little come learn about law stuff, because hello. Okay. And then you and I are going to do a thing together about if you can have parasocial relationships with yourself.
Spoiler, you can.
and how that works, and where all those funky lines are between people and characters and relationships between characters and people. That will be very, very fun. Yes, we're going to do a fan law panel. Hello, you've met me, right? I can't show you my whole wall because we're busy right now, but I have an entire shelf here that is all just my She-Hulk stuff. Yes, okay, much lying. Chungus hatception clip. I love it. And then Alasdair will be doing some reading, some story narrations. He's going to cold read fanfic that's been submitted.
I'm very confident this is going to go extremely well.
But I get to read it in advance, And I'm totally gonna do like Foley stuff, I think. I just need some time to prepare for all of it. It'll be very, very cool. But yes, Alasdair will be doing bedtime fanfic reading. And then I think Zalia is gonna be our interviewer for a Q&A.
Yes.
As well. And there's tons of other fun stuff that Archive's
it's a great
doing.
show.
Like bring your this is my headcanon presentations. This is what ArchiveCon is for. And there's a bunch of artists who are going to be displaying and vending, and it looks really, really cool. I'm really going to have a very good time with it. It'll be great.
I often struggle with getting excited with conventions for, reasons I'll probably tell you about if you spend more than a minute and a half with me. And
they involve piss-ups and breweries in Ireland.
Yeah, and I am unironically giddy about ArchiveCon. I think it's going to be so much fun.
Bring Your Headcanon to Work Day is the perfect convention panel title.
Bring Your Headcanon to
I
Work
love
Day.
that so much. I don't know what the recording situation is, but I know that we've been asked to use our Twitch channel for the ones that we're on. So there will be VODs, but I don't know about everything else. But yes, Bring Your Headcanon to Work. That is today's gender. Today's gender is Bring Your Headcanon to Work. I adore it.
Yes, indeed.
Should we actually do?
Oh, go on then.
Oh, go on.
May as well.
All right, might as well.
So, content warnings for this week's opening monologue, which is...
I have to find it. Help.
Don't worry, I have it on the screen because
you do, but
profesh.
I don't. All right, Mr. Prepared and stuff.
God, I'm living the episode of 30 Rock where Tracy actually does his job. This is so weird. Memorized all my lines, Liz Lemon. I was very professional.
You may go now.
Content warnings for this are animal death, cannibalism, ? Death, lobotomy reference, peril, and swearing.
Right.
One quick contextual note, as is almost always the case, the opening monologue is a piece of writing on video games by Nick Crowley, friend of the show, opening house band, fiercely talented author, magnificent beard deployer, occasional Roman ghost, just all-around superb human.
Smashing parent.
Yeah,
yes.
Nate is one of the best people we know.
Anyway.
He's great.
Right. Go for it.
Very well. How I Nearly Died on Minecraft's title screen. Also, I Think I Met the Devil by Nate Crowley. As you may have seen already, the hillside lake shown on Minecraft's old title screen, which rotated slowly and blurrily between 2011 and 2018, has been located at last. The discovery of the world's seed is a story in itself about how a group of people managed to deduce a single location from among the I will not get this number right.
Okay. Million, billion, trillion, quadrillion, quintillion. 18 quintillion, 446 quadrillion, 744 trillion, 73 billion, 709 million, 951,616.
Worlds possible in Minecraft. Thank you.
Nice colds, I'll just... Well done.
That's about as many atoms as there are in a bee, for reference, making for a pretty daunting puzzle. But since the techniques used to solve it were so unspeakably clever that I could only understand them as literal sorcery, I am probably not the person to ham-fistedly relay that tale.
Instead, I thought I would make a pilgrimage to this fabled location by loading the 2011 beta build where it existed, generating a world with a sorcerer's seed, and building a house by the side of that very lake. We've all seen the place hundreds of times, but I wanted to know what it was like to live there. The answer, as it was turned out, is surprisingly difficult.
Any good expedition needs parameters, so I set my rules before I embarked. From entering the world, I'd give myself 3 in-game days to find the location from the coordinates I'd written down, and build a home there with 4 walls, a door, and a roof. I wouldn't leave the area visible in the rotating panorama from the old title menu. I wouldn't use creative mode. This actually turned out to be an easy rule to follow as it didn't exist in build 1.7.3, and if I died, I'd delete the installation and never return. Having played Minecraft on and off for a decade, I figured that this all sounded like a pretty tame challenge.
But as Bane once famously mumbled, peace had cost me my strength. Peace had cost me my strength.
Mr. Wade.
Mr. Wayne. Spoiled by 9 years of added features and by spending the last year or so playing almost entirely as a non-violent flying god in creative mode, I just wasn't prepared for what a different experience it was to play Minecraft back in caveman times. For a start, because of there being no creative mode, I had to actually walk to the coordinates. How quaint! I murmured, like a Roman emperor being offered a wax statue of a dog's cock by a gurning bumpkin, as I picked my way through a landscape made subtly alien by time. The fact that I didn't corpse on that
Well
line,
done.
I would like entered into the record.
I reached the location specified and frowned, as I appeared to be looking at a generic, nondescript bit of countryside. But after turning 90 degrees to look at a different bit of equally nondescript countryside, something clicked. Some buried process in my brain, no doubt evolved for something actually useful back in the hellish savannas of the late Pleistocene, knew exactly where I was, even without having to bring up my reference image to check. I was on the Minecraft title screen. It looked exactly as it always had, preserved like a mosquito in amber made of congealed maths, and it looked exactly how it should. Apart from one thing. As I took in the view, a single black sheep waddled into view right at the center of my vision and evoked 2016 horror movie The Witch a little more than I felt comfortable with.
And we should pause here to note that the caption for the photo under this part of the review says, "Wouldst thou like to live deliciously?"
Now might be a good time to say I have yet to see The Witch.
What? All right, put that on the bank holiday weekend.
Or as I like to call it, the Vivitch.
Still, there was no time to waste looking at devilish farm animals, as after burning half the day in finding the site and then gawking at it, I was running out of daylight. Deciding that old Black Phillip had been an omen, showing me where to build, like the snake and the eagle at Tenochtitlan. You're welcome. There's my Mesoamerican paleontology coming in. I flattened out the little promontory where the sheep had manifested and crossed the lake to engage in a Minecraft staple that's been there since day one, punching trees. By the time evening fell on the valley like a brick, I had a good stack of oak logs and made to hurriedly throw up my cabin walls so I could spend the dark hours working on the inside. That was when I hit my first big limitation.
The caption for the next image reads simply,
Bollocks.
I'd forgotten that you couldn't choose the alignment of log blocks in those days, so my plan to make pleasant horizontal log walls was buggered, and with the lobotomized moans of zombies already filling the darkness, there was no time to come up with a plan B. So I followed the timeless first night playbook, and I buried myself in a hole for the night. Soon after that, a storm started. Weather had just been introduced to the game, after all, and continued all night as I dug a miserable, lightless cave with a wooden pickaxe. Since charcoal torches, ever the saviour of a coldness first night, were still some way off in the developmental future, I had to use a furnace as an impromptu lamp, wastefully burning wooden planks so I could see what I was doing. At last, in a stroke of Morissettian irony, I struck coal just as dawn broke.
And who would have thought? It figures, is the caption there. The storm continued unabated through the day, and even though I knew the gloom would mean the horrors of the nighttime would still be roaming above ground, I was nearly halfway through my allotted time, and so I had no choice but to break free from my cowardice hole and brave the world. Immediately, I was assaulted by a skeleton.
The caption for the next image reads, "Seconds it took, mere seconds." I only survived getting jumped because things were so much easier to kill prior to the awkward sword swing timing mechanic introduced in Minecraft's combat update. Even so, I'd been narrowed down to my last couple of hearts, to the point where even a minor fall might now spell the end of me. Forced to delay the construction of my walls even further, I had to go in search of food.
Black Phillip, as the nearest animal to hand, was first for the chop. But alas, he had no chops for my thirst, as sheep just dropped wool in these days. With fish not having been invented yet, I sprinted off in search of a cow I saw on the horizon, but it did not drop any beef. Nor did the next cow, or the next, or the zombie that nearly ended my life as it blundered out from behind a tree in the middle of my hunt. The whole herd had not a single burger between them, and I began to remember just how few sources of food there used to be. There was nothing for it. I was going to have to punch loads of grass until I found some seeds and build a panic farm.
Silver linings. The skeleton's bones produced bone meal, so I could force grow enough wheat to make a single loaf of bread straight away. Sure, it was fertilized with the ground remains of what was presumably a human, but needs must when the devil visits you as a sheep.
Kept from the edge of death by the single loaf I bullied from God's hands, I had just enough time left in the day to grab a bit more wood, a bit of sand for forging glass windows, and a bit of iron that I saw exposed on the other shore of the lake. Then, without a single block of wall laid, I was forced to scurry back underground as night fell once more. At least the rain had stopped, though that iron allowed me to smith myself an iron hat and a sword, which made me feel a little safer.
They also saved my life. Since it was quiet out, I decided to risk sneaking out of my hole to do a bit of night carpentry. But as soon as I got to work, I heard what sounded like a man aggressively drinking a milkshake right behind me, and all of a sudden a spider was right in my face. I ran downstairs and poked it to death from 6 feet away, then spent the rest of the night battling the stream of monsters that came after it.
When day 3, my final day, began, the rain had stopped at last.
Oh my god.
But a grim surprise awaited me. Wouldst thou like to see the world?
This arsehole was back again, and he'd spent the night bouncing up and down on my crops so they'd all burst. There would be no more bread for me. Cheers, the devil. I couldn't even build a bloody fence to stop him. It was one of the dozens of crafting recipes that just didn't exist in 2011. But no matter, this was my last day in any case, and since the weather was fine, I got straight to the task of throwing up the walls of a quick, dirty house. By this time, the sun was setting. I was putting the last blocks on the roof, and as I climbed back up to my original vantage point, I reflected on the fact it had taken me well over half an hour to put up the most goddamn basic 9x5 house I'd built in years.
Guess why that's why it's called survival mode. Revisiting 2011's Minecraft was a stranger experience than I expected it to be. I distinctly remember the thrill of the game back then being the feeling that you could do anything, and it seemed there was no end to the possibilities. But that list of possibilities kept growing and growing. Now, played in hindsight after 9 years of willing feature creep, early Minecraft is an experience defined by everything you can't do. Food is scarce, decoration options are slim, and night is brutal. Much like a Paleolithic forager, you spend so much of your waking life struggling with the basic necessities of not becoming dead, at least in the early game, that any time left to spare to devote to aesthetics feels like an astonishing luxury.
Minecraft was a more stressful experience in 2011 for sure. Certainly it was way more limited as a construction toy, but part of me can't help but think it was a better game.
If you want to have a go at homesteading in Minecraft's history, you want to create a beta 1.7.3 installation in the Minecraft launcher and create a new world set with the seed, there's a string of numbers here. Then head to coordinates XYZ and look to your right. Let me know how you get on, and don't anger Black Phillip.
It is the most Nate thing in the world to open Minecraft and go, I think I just met the devil.
I loved this. This was fantastic. Nate Crowley was created from smokeless flame before the dawn of time. He writes books and tweets a lot. Each October, he's replaced by Ghostus, the Roman ghost.
Ghostus is the goodest of times.
And that was our very delightful opening monologue.
Bless him.
In which we tested Marguerite's math and ancient Mesoamerican pronunciation skills.
We are literally fun and educational.
Fun and educational, very much so.
Shoot a story.
Well, why don't you give us a little recap before we hold on? Set the stage. Dun dun dun. There we go. Funducational. Funducational.
Fancy. Let's just go with fancy. I like Pezzy's fancy.
Yes. We's fancy. She's talking fancy. I'm sorry. There's a glorious My Little Pony Friendship is Magic comic Guess which one I am. Okay? Everybody guess. You ready? Are you guessing really, really hard which of the My Little Ponies Marguerite likes? And there's a scene where it's which one is it? It's Rarity, I think, starts talking in French, and Applejack's response is, oh, "She's talking fancy," and I just love it very much. Okay.
Anyway,
Shall we have a recap of the horror story
as
now?
a
I'm
treat.
sorry, I got too excited. Okay.
Nothing wrong with that at all. So we're doing.
Ducky returns. Yay!
Hey, Ducky.
Good evening, Ducky.
We're doing a warning to the curious by M.R. James, who is one of the greatest horror writers of the Western world. And I say this knowing full well I have a reputation for going, is he old and dead? Yeah, I don't care. Because horror is an inherently backward-looking genre. And I'll leave it there, because otherwise I might get a bit ranty. But
we don't have the new tangent alert emoji yet, honey. I'm sorry.
another thing.
Yes, very much so.
James is unusual in that he's deserving of the hype. His stuff is a little mannered, but it is always intricately and beautifully constructed, and frequently really unsettling. And this is no exception. Warning to the Curious is one of his all-time greats. And it is about two people who, as they do in this time period, the type of people that James writes about, decide to go on holiday and just sort of hang out in a guest house and have a study and read the newspaper and possibly go, a lot. And then I'm guessing eat kippers. Basically, just, moderately rich folks hanging out. They realize that because the season is a little quiet, they are the only guests aside from one other person. And being British, they somewhat grumpily offer him some company. And he accepts. And he tells them a story about how he had done a lot of research into the area and discovered that this is the location of one of the 3 Saxon crowns purportedly buried in English soil, which have ensured the country is never invaded.
A lad's weekend gone wrong.
A classical lad's weekend, Bonnie, exactly. And he works out the location of the crown. And he digs it up. And it doesn't go well.
Which is where we're going to pick up this evening. I do believe I've highlighted your recap text.
Bless you. Yeah, Pezzy, they have literally gone on holiday by mistake.
Well, they were on holiday in intention, and then hilarity will ensue.
Yes.
If you would start just with the title again for...
Of course.
Yep.
This is part 2 of A Warning to the Curious by M.R. James. Then he went on. And even if I do get it put back, he won't forgive me. I can tell that. And I was so happy a fortnight ago. He dropped into a chair, and I believe he began to cry. We didn't know what to say. But we felt we must come to the rescue somehow, and so, it really seemed the only thing, we said if he was so set on putting the crown back in its place, then we would help him. And I must say that after what we had heard, it did seem the right thing. If these horrid consequences had come on this poor man, might there not be really something in the original idea of the crown having some curious power bound up with it to guard the coast? At least that was my feeling, and I think it was Long's too. Our offer was very welcome to Paxton anyhow. When could we do it? It was nearing 10:30. Could we contrive to make a late walk plausible to the hotel people that very night? Well, we looked out of the window. There was a beautiful, brilliant full moon, the Pascal moon. Long undertook to tackle the boots and getting this wrong, pardon me. Long undertook to tackle the boots and propitiate him. He was to say that we should not be much over the hour, and if we did find it so pleasant that we stopped out a bit longer, we would see that he didn't lose by sitting up. Well, we were pretty regular customers of the hotel, and did not give much trouble, and were considered by the servants to be not under the mark in the way of tips, and so the boots was propitiated, and let us out onto the seafront, and remained, as we heard later, looking after us. Paxton had a long coat over his arm, under which was the wrapped-up crown.
Can you just imagine the goss between the staff at this hotel? Yeah, go ahead, you idiots! Help yourself!
I say, would you mind awfully if we popped out for a walk? I genuinely don't give a shit. Off you fuck. Don't
You've
die.
already tipped it. You're a white guy who's about to do something stupid. Vaya con Dios.
So we were off on this strange errand before we had time to think how very much out of the way it was. I have told this part quite shortly on purpose, for it really does represent the haste with which we settled our plan and took action. The shortest way is up the hill and through the churchyard, Paxton said, with a voice which isn't his. Hold on. The shortest way is up the hill and through the churchyard, Paxton said as we stood a moment before the hotel looking up and down the front. There was nobody about. Nobody at all. Seaburg out of the season is an early, quiet place. We can't go along the dike by the cottage because of the dog, Paxton also said when I pointed out what I thought a short way along the front and across two fields could be. The reason he gave was good enough. So we went up the road to the church, and we turned in at the churchyard gate. I confess to having thought there might be some lying there who might be conscious of our business, but if it was so, they were also conscious that one who was on their side, so to say, had us under surveillance. And so we saw no sign of them. But under observation we felt we were, as I have never felt it at another time. Especially was it so when we passed out of the courtyard into a narrow path with close high hedges, through which we hurried as Christian did through that valley, and so got out into open fields. Then, along hedges, though I would sooner have been in the open, where I could see if anyone was visible behind me, over a gate or two, and then a swerve to the left, taking us up onto the ridge, which ended in that mound.
Not quite over the river and through the woods, but they're traipsing around.
As we neared it, Henry Long felt, and I felt too, that there were what I can only call dim presences waiting for us, as well as a far more actual one attending us. Of Paxton's agitation all this time, I can give you no adequate picture. He breathed like a hunted beast, and we could not, either of us, bring ourselves to look at his face. How he would manage when we got to the very place we had not troubled to think. He had seemed so sure that would not be difficult. Nor was it. I never saw anything like the dash with which he flung himself at a particular spot on the side of the mound and tore at it, so that in a very few minutes the greater part of his body was out of sight. We stood, holding the coat and that bundle of handkerchief, and looking very fearfully, I must admit, about us. There was nothing to be seen. A line of dark firs behind us made one skyline, more trees and the church tower half a mile off on the right, cottages and a windmill on the horizon on the left, calm sea dead in front. Faint barking of a dog at a cottage on a gleaming dike between us and it. Full moon making that path we know across the sea. The eternal whisper of the Scotch firs just above us, and of the sea in front. Yet in all this quiet, an acute, an acrid consciousness of a restrained hostility very near us, like a dog on a leash that might be let off that leash at any moment. Paxton pulled himself out of the hole and stretched a hand back to us. "Give it to me," he whispered, "unwrapped." We pulled off the handkerchiefs and he took the crown. The moonlight just fell on it as he snatched it. We had not ourselves touched that bit of metal, and I have thought since that that was just as well. In another moment, Paxton was out of the hole again, and busy shoveling back the soil with hands that were already bleeding. He would have none of our help, though. It was much the longest part of the job to get the place to look undisturbed, yet I don't know how He made a wonderful success of it, and at last he was satisfied, and we turned back. We were a couple of 100 yards away from the hill when Long said to him, "I say, you've left your coat there. That won't do, see?" And I certainly did see it, the long dark overcoat lying where the tunnel had been. Paxton had not stopped, however. He only shook his head and held up the coat on his arm, and when we joined him he said without any excitement, but as if nothing mattered any more, "That wasn't my coat." And indeed, when we looked back again, that darkness was not to be seen. Well, we got out on the road and came rapidly back that way. It was well before 12 when we got in, trying to put a good face on it and saying, Long and I, what a lovely night it was for a walk. The Boots was on the lookout for us, and we made remarks like that for his edification as we entered the hotel. He gave another look up and down the seafront before he locked the front door, and said, "You don't meet many people about, I suppose, sir?" "No, indeed, not a soul," I said, on which I remember Paxton looked oddly at me. "Only thought I saw someone turn up the station road after you gentlemen," said the Boots. "Still, you was three together, and I don't suppose you meant mischief." I didn't know what to say. Long merely said, "Good night," and we went off upstairs, promising to turn put all lights and to go to bed in a few minutes. I have been long in this situation. I've been the "bye then" guy.
And now our association is at an end. I bid you good night.
The night porters at this hotel are extremely surprised to see them return. Money is exchanging hands.
Absolutely. In the
You're
kitchen they
alive,
are
I
passing.
see, sir. That's me out of tenner, you bastard. Back in our room, we did our very best to make Paxton take a cheerful view. "There's the crown safe back," we said. "Very likely you'd have done better not to touch it," and he very heavily assented to that. "But no real harm has been done, and we shall never give this away to anyone who would be so mad as to go near it. Besides, don't you feel better yourself?"
That
I,
is such a lie.
I,
Like,
I,
I'm just waiting to see which one of them is going to sneak out of bed and go back for it first.
I don't mind confessing, I said, that on the way there I was very much inclined to take your view about, well, about being followed. But going back, it wasn't at all the same thing, was it? No, it wouldn't do. You've nothing to trouble yourselves about," he said. "But I'm not forgiven. I've got to pay for that miserable sacrilege still. I know what you are going to say. The church might help. Yes. But it's the body that has to suffer. It's true, I'm not feeling that he's waiting outside for me just now, but..." Then he stopped. Then he turned to thanking us, and we put him off as soon as we could. And naturally, we pressed him to use our sitting room next day, and said we should be glad to go out with him, or did he play golf, perhaps? And yes, he did, but he didn't think he should care about that tomorrow. Well, we recommended him to get up late and sit in our room in the morning while we were playing, and we would have a walk later in the day. He was very submissive and piano about it all, ready to do just what we thought best, but clearly quite certain in his own mind that what was coming could not be averted or palliated. You'll wonder why we didn't insist on accompanying him to his home and seeing him safe into the care of brothers or someone. The fact was he had nobody. He had a flat in town, but lately he had made up his mind to settle for a time in Sweden, and he had dismantled his flat and shipped off his belongings, and was whiling away a fortnight or 3 weeks before he made a start. Anyhow, We didn't see what we could do better than sleep on it, or not sleep very much, as was my case, and see what we felt like tomorrow morning. We felt very different, Long and I, on as beautiful an April morning as you could desire, and Paxton also looked very different when we saw him at breakfast. The first approach to a decent night I seem to ever have had, was what he said, but he was going to do as we had settled, stay in, probably all morning, and come out with us later. So we went to the links. We met some other men and played with them in the morning and had lunch there rather early, so as not to be late back. All the same, the snares of death overtook him. Whether it could have been prevented, I don't know. I think he would have been got at somehow, do what we might. Anyhow, this is what happened. We went straight up to our room. Paxton was there, reading quite peaceably. Ready to come out shortly, said Long. Say in half an hour's time. Certainly, he said, and I said we would change first and perhaps have baths, and call for him in half an hour. I had my bath first, and went and lay down on my bed, and slept for about 10 minutes. We came out of our rooms at the same time, and went together to the sitting room. Paxton wasn't there. Only his book. Nor was he in his room, nor in the downstairs rooms. We shouted for him. A servant came out and said, "Why, I thought you gentlemen was gone out already. So did the other gentleman. He heard you calling from the path there and ran out in such a hurry. I looked out the coffee room window, but I didn't see you. However, he run off down the beach that way." Without a word, we ran that way too. It was the opposite direction to that of last night's expedition. It wasn't quite 4 o'clock, and the day was fair, though not so fair as it had been. So that was really no reason, you'd say, for anxiety. With people about, surely a man couldn't come to much harm. But something in our look as we ran out must have struck the servant, for he came out on the steps and pointed and said, "Yes, that's the way he went." We ran on as far as the top of the shingle bank, and then pulled up. There was a choice of ways, past the houses on the seafront, or along the sand at the bottom of the beach, which, the tide now being out, was fairly broad. Or, of course, we might keep along the shingle between those two tracks, and have some view of both of them, only that was heavy going. We chose the sand, for that was the loneliest, and someone might come to harm there without being seen from the public path. Long said he saw Paxton some distance ahead, running and waving his stick, as if he wanted to signal to people who were on ahead of him. I couldn't be sure. One of those sea mists was coming up very quickly from the chute. There was someone, that's all I could say. And there were tracks on the sand as of someone running who wore shoes. And there were other tracks made before those. For the shoes sometimes trod in them and interfered with them, of someone not in shoes. Oh, of course, it's only my word you've got to take for all this. Long's dead. We'd no time or means to make sketches or take casts, and the next tide washed everything away. All we could do was to notice these marks as we hurried on. But there they were, over and over and over again, and we had no doubt whatever that what we saw was the track of a bare foot, and one that showed more bone than flesh. The notion of Paxton running after anything like this and supposing it to be the friends he was looking for was dreadful, very dreadful to us. You can guess what we fancied, how the thing he was following might stop suddenly and turn round on him, and what sort of a face it would show. Half seen at first in the mist, which all the while was getting thicker and thicker, and as I ran on, wondering how the poor wretch could have been lured into mistaking that other thing for us, I remembered his saying, "He has some power over your eyes." And then I wondered what the end would be, for I had no hope now that the end could not be averted. And, well, there is no need to tell all the dismal and horrid thoughts that flitted through my head as we ran on into the mist. It was uncanny, too, that the sun should still be bright in the sky and we could see nothing. We could only tell that we were now past the houses and had reached that gap there is between them and the old Martello Tower. When you are past that tower, you know, there is nothing but shingle for a long way, not a house, not a human creature. Just that spit of land, or rather shingle, with the river on your right and the sea on your left. But just before that, just by the Martello Tower, you remember there is the old battery close to the sea. I believe there are only a few blocks of concrete left now. The rest has all been washed away. But at this time there was a lot more, though the place was a ruin. When we got there, we clambered to the top as quick as we could to take breath and to look out over the shingle in front if by chance the mist would let us see anything. But a moment's rest we must have. We had run a mile, at least. Nothing whatever was visible ahead of us, and we were just turning by common consent to get down and run hopelessly on when we heard what I can only call a laugh. And if you can understand what I mean by a breathless, a lungless laugh, you have it. But I don't suppose you can. It came from below and swerved away into the mist, and that was enough. We bent over the wall. Paxton was there at the bottom. You don't need to be told that he was dead. His tracks showed that he had run along the side of the battery, had turned sharp round the corner of it, and, small doubt of it, must have dashed straight into the open arms of someone who was waiting there. His mouth was full of sand and stones. His teeth and jaws were broken to bits. I only once glanced at his face. At the same moment, just as we were scrambling down from the battery to get to the body, we heard a shout and saw a man running down the bank of the Martello Tower. He was the caretaker stationed there, and his keen old eyes had managed to descry through the mist that something was wrong. He had seen Paxton fall. He had seen us a moment later, running up. Fortunate this, for otherwise we could hardly have escaped suspicion of being concerned in this dreadful business. Had he, we asked, caught sight of anybody attacking our friend? We could not be sure. We sent him off for help, and we stayed by the dead man till they came with the stretcher. It was then that we traced out how he had come on the narrow fringe of sand under the battery wall. The rest was shingle, and it was hopelessly impossible to tell whither the other had gone. What were we to say at the inquest? It was a duty, we felt, not to give up there and then the secret of the crown to be published in every paper. I don't know how much you would have told, but what we did agree upon was this: to say that we had only made acquaintance with Paxton the day before, and that he had told us he was under some apprehension of danger at the hands of a man called William Ager. Also that we had seen some other tracks beside Paxton's when we followed him along the beach. But of course, by that time, everything was gone from the sands. No one had any knowledge, fortunately, of any William Ager living in the district. The evidence of the man at the Martello Tower freed us from all suspicion. All that could be done was to return a verdict of willful murder by some person or persons unknown. Paxton was so totally without connections that all the inquiries that were subsequently made ended in a no thoroughfare. And I have never been at Seaburg, or even near it, since.
Ended in a no thoroughfare. What a lovely phrase.
Isn't that a lovely turn of phrase for an awful thing?
It touches on a lot of different common like myth types, doesn't it? The idea that it whatever it is, it manipulates what you see. It's got a touch of the Wild Hunt to it. The
Yeah,
idea that you have to pursue it,
that's a really good spot.
and you get trapped in the pursuit. And then I almost wonder, because at the beginning of the story it's kind of a wink wink nudge nudge. He gets kind of set on this path of discovery by the guy at the churchyard, and you almost wonder if the town knew he was without connections and without family, and therefore he would make a good target for this thing and
Gotta
set
make
him
sure the
off on the
crops grow,
way.
don't you?
Gotta feed the wicker man. And yes, I do not think Mr. M.R. James enjoyed the beach. More beach for the rest of us, thank you.
Bonnie, that is a lovely analogy. It's like a personified tidal pool. You go in looking and you can't get out.
You've been in a riptide.
I have. That was very unsettling.
You want to talk about it? Is that okay?
Yeah, we've been boogie boarding a few times at Santa Cruz, not at the smaller beaches around Santa Cruz, because those will power bomb your ass.
Yeah.
I have never been flipped upside down by the ocean before, but I went there.
Grabbed by your ankles and dunked on your head.
But we used to,
There's a reason why the ocean's worshipped. It has more power than you.
right?
Yes. Yeah.
But we boogie boarded a few times at Santa Cruz, and we'd go out pretty far. And I mean, I can swim, not especially well, but I can swim. And you're tied to the board. The board's big and it's easy to use, and it's fun as hell. And we were out about a good 2-3 hours. We realized it was time for us to go in, so we started paddling in. And I mean, as you can tell, I wear glasses. The end of my clear vision is here, so it took about 5 minutes for me to notice I wasn't moving.
You weren't getting any closer to the shore. Yeah.
Marguerite was.
That's fine.
So she's proceeding along like this, and I am doing this. And I didn't panic. I did point out that this was going wrong, and because she's amazing, she turned around and went, "Oh, okay, you're in a riptide. Don't panic."
Here's how we deal with this. Yep.
And basically,
got you back to the beach.
I seem to remember all you told me was everything you're doing is great. Just keep doing it.
Or turn your body a little bit that way. Exactly.
And it was just, you will get through this. You'll just get through it and be a quarter mile down, and it will take 10 times the amount of time.
And you will be very tired, because that's the true danger of a riptide. Is one, you were close enough to shore that you were able to tell you were in one. It's very difficult if you don't have line of sight on the shore to not notice. And two, it just wears you out.
Yeah.
It exhausts you.
I have a very, 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 very clear memory of sitting on the beach and it taking 20 minutes to get my breath back.
Yeah, you were really tired by the time we got you out.
And pink, because,
Sunshine.
Sunshine.
Marguerite, person I'd most like to have at my side in the event of practically any emergency.
That's entirely fair, Wendy.
And I've done a lot of emergency preparedness just as part of my life. So my mom was an emergency room nurse, and my dad was a professional driver, and they used to be volunteer ambulance crew. Um, and there have been a couple of situations where an event has kicked off, like if somebody screams in a way where you can tell that is not a child getting attention, that is a person in danger, I will resume consciousness in about 45 seconds, having found that person and
I've
offered
seen this
aid.
happen. I have seen this happen. Back when we lived in Milton Keynes, in the older times when Marguerite had to commute into London, I would walk the 20 minutes down from the house to the train station to meet her.
Yep.
And
Because he's lovely.
oh, and I distinctly remember heading out of the train station one kind of summer evening, and we were chatting away, and suddenly I realized she wasn't next to me. And this is exactly how my brain worked, where I went, Marguerite's not there. The door's just opened. Those two guys are having a fight. There are 15 people standing around with cameras. Oh, I know where she is. And I turned back around, went in, and in the type of voice that would make members of the armed services stand up straight, she was going, I need a security officer immediately. There's a fight out front. And this dude in a high-vis vest literally just went, Mom. And they're over there. Looks like it's a couple of homeless guys. Doesn't look that serious, but it is physical. There's a bunch of people videoing it, and I hope calling it in.
It's a very well documented phenomenon that 99% of people in an emergency pause.
Bonnie, that is the most perfect description of I've ever heard.
Manfred override fugue state. Ooh, I like that a lot. It's just well documented. Most people in an emergency situation will just pause, not stop. I mean, they may eventually get moving in, but they just because they need to take in the information. And then the moment somebody says something with authority, it doesn't matter what it is. It's more the tone of voice. And then people will move. They will react. They will start galvanizing. I'm usually that tone of voice, so this will surprise nobody. But I did marching band in high school. I trained as a drum major. You want to talk about how to articulate over loud distances? I got you, fam. So I don't need a whistle for it anymore. But
It's very, very interesting as well, seeing that work in this country, because the UK, certainly the part of it we're in, the part of it Bonnie's in, I suspect is quite different in this regard, is by definition very diffident and apologetic. And I always had that drilled into me. And also the fact I'm too big. You know, I'm 6'2" in every direction. I take up too much room. So that's why my shoulders still hunch 45 years in. Because sometimes when I lose track of it, I try and not take up enough room. And I have this really, really clear memory of the first time she had that effect on me. And we had gone to Bread Ahead in Borough Market for a Valentine's Day pizza making exercise. It was really, really good fun.
That was a fun class.
And
at the time, the lady who taught the course wasn't she on Bake Off?
She was on Bake Off.
She was on Bake Off, yeah.
Tiny, I think Czechoslovakian lady. But we were on one of the travelators, and I was off to one side, and this dude barged past me.
Oh, yes.
And without thinking, where are you fucking going? And he cooked off. He turned around. He came up to my fucking nipples. He turned around and he's yelling at me about how I should get fucked and he was going to eat my face. And
then I took a half step in front of Alasdair and went, go!
And he's like, oh, sorry, Bob. Didn't see you there. I'm sorry.
I'm like, pardon me, move! Just keep walking, and he ran. That travelator, he was gone. He's like, nope, I'm not dealing with her.
He literally did the 75 meters down. I'll be back, and you'll be sorry, as he broke into a run. It was so cool.
It does seem to be another one of those kind of, if you want to be insidious or conspiratorially minded about it, it's an intentionally planted thing. But there is something about, in my experience, British consciousness that has one of two reactions to a woman speaking with authority. And one of them is, yes, ma'am. And the other one is just non-engagement. They'll just turn and walk away. But there's something about that whole school marm voice. I mean, I'm an American. I work at a British. I work with British colleagues. Having the ability to speak with authority, not assertive. You know, the difference between aggression and assertion. Blah 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 blah. But to speak with confidence and authority has a disproportionate effect in this country, is my experience. Angrier Ted Lasso. I've never seen Ted Lasso.
It's on the list.
Yeah. And it's a skill anybody can learn, but we've gone on a complete and total tangent. Oh gosh, she speaks kinder. Of course, it's the if you can wrangle 4-year or 5-year-olds, you can wrangle anybody. Very much so.
I've seen this happen too. We stayed with friends in the US about 6 years ago now, and
gosh,
I know. And the first friends we stayed with were this amazing couple with 3 kids. We slept in drawers. It was like the episode of Eerie, Indiana.
They had like trundle beds, right? So they had beds, and then they had the little pull-up beds underneath. So then they put 2 of them together, and we were sleeping side by side. It was like we were sleeping in giant dresser drawers. It was hilarious.
But we rocked up just as their middle kid's birthday party was happening.
Oh my god, I remember this.
And they were both like, "We're so sorry, but we'll buy you the best tacos you've ever had, but we're going to need to wrangle some kids."
And both sets of grandparents showed up, and then like 17 9-year-olds show up. We have been in this house
10 minutes.
15 minutes. We know these people. We've been their good friends forever, but we've never been to their home. And an hour later, I am in the kitchen directing everything. I'm like, right, cupcakes over there. Grandma, you go here. Grandpa, go do this. Switch that pizza.
Both mothers-in-law.
Yeah,
She was pointing out stuff in a kitchen she'd never been in accurately.
Well, you know.
Whereas I'm like, yes, Timmy, you can probably put the cheese up your nose. It's fine.
That was a fun party. Kids have good birthday parties.
The big boy voice is exactly it. And yeah, it does. It changes how you feel, and it changes how you handle yourself.
And it's not... It doesn't have to be necessarily about getting effect out of other people, but it's exactly like you said, Bon. It's about being able to say, I can do this for myself. I have the confidence to say, look, I have expertise in this situation. I'm going to make myself heard. Marguerite for Enterprise Captain. Oh, don't get me started about how much I would love to pilot a starship. Let's not even go there. This was supposed to be a spooky story, and now we're talking about my drum major voice. This is weird.
We're talking about how awesome you are. Yeah, skip straight to Admiral. That's absolutely legit.
No. Kirk had that much right. When you get promoted too high, if you were not, okay, typical lawyer answer. It depends.
It depends.
Depends on what your strength is. Is your strength? It's the difference between tactics and strategy. If your strength is tactics, then you need to be in the field because you deal with immediate small circumstances. If your strength is strategy, i.e. making bigger, longer decisions over more people with a longer period of time, then you of course want to get promoted to admiral. But Star Trek has really fallen down on that. They've done a really poor job of showing people who were admirals who were suited for it. They've done a lot of showing captains who were great at it and then made into it and then floundered. Thank you for coming to my Star Trek TED Talk.
Commodore Kenner.
Commodore. No. I think Empress, if I have to ever pick a title ever of the one I want, Empress is my favorite. That sounds good. You know, the world is a mess and I just need to rule it.
Would that make me your major domo?
Honey, we can make you anything I want to make you at that point. If I'm Empress, pick. The best form of... it's not the best. The most efficient form of government is a benign dictatorship. But that gets into whole lots of political theory, and we should... Well, a LARP for me, huh? I haven't LARPed in years and years and years. That sounds fun.
I killed a LARP once. Did I ever tell you
How
this?
did you kill a LARP? Hold on, let me. Since we're done with the story, let's go back to chat mode, shall we?
Yeah, Wendy, you make a good point. I'm not especially pointy.
You don't have. We've tried the whole goatee beard thing, and it was cool, but it drove you mad. So no,
Get it out of my face.
yes.
Um, I was part of a whole series of vampire LARPs in York, which I seem to remember Wendy was sensible enough to not go anywhere near.
Just take the York part off, and yeah, lots of
Yeah,
us cut our teeth on that stuff.
and one of them, the GMs made the mistake of doing a story which now would play very differently about the release of an extremely contagious disease in York.
Ooh,
Yeah,
won't be doing that again.
I read Crisis in the Hot Zone when I was 15.
And then you watched Andromeda Strain like way
And then
too
I
many
watched.
times,
I've seen
right?
every version of the Andromeda Strain, so I could tell what levels of I had what levels of biohazard danger there are on the CDC level. This was back when the CDC was actually an organization that did things.
Okay, mood, Camarilla, derogatory.
Right. I knew an awful lot of CDC and new SAMRED procedures inside and out because I was also running a 5 fucking night a week World of Darkness conspiracy
While
game
you
at
were
that
going to
point.
university?
Whilst I was also going to university and working 2 degrees because I'm actually brilliant.
In case anybody's surprised here. Okay. Shall we
But
just move on? Okay, thank you.
the first session comes in and they introduce the plot and you know the prince of the city looks around and goes, "Does anybody know anything about this?" And I'm like, "Me!" I I seem to remember it was actually written into my character background. So
That's
you know,
convenient.
I did actually do the all right. What we're dealing with is this biohazard level 1. We're fine. Biohazard level 2. This is not going to be especially good. 3 is bad. 4 is going to melt us. Here are some suggestions about what we do. And I could see the 2 GMs going,
Quickly, isolate him. He's destroying our plot.
and the next week we had a different plot.
Yeah. Yeah.
As in a York University LARPer, yes. I did not attend York University. I attended what was, I need to take a run up at this because it's a really long name. What was at the time the University College of Ripon and York St John, which is a really roundabout way of saying it's a bit of Leeds. It's like someone had snapped off a bit of Leeds University and gone, just fucking throw it. But yeah, my partner at the time was a York University physics student, and she dropped out 2 years in because it's a physics degree and it kills people. And our entire circle of friends for about a decade and a half.
Rubesco, York is my LARP origin story. Great. As our group shrinks and interconnects. Okay, how many people in the chat used to do LARP in Palo Alto, California? Because that's where I did fine. Oh my gosh.
Now might be a good time to point out, I think my superpowers just manifested again. It's been a while. Manx people get fucking everywhere.
Yep.
And we tend to run into people everywhere. So we've
because you have the deep one sense.
Yes.
It's like lawyers. We can pick each other out of crowds.
Rebecca, so we probably don't line up on timings on this, but if you spent any time in York and went into the comic and game shop on Goodrum Gate, you probably met me. I was employed there between about 1995 and 2005.
Yes. Well, Alasdair's one of those nexus points where everybody's met him at one remove. You are Kevin Bacon to UK genre in genre fiction.
I am the genre fiction Danny Ocean, except I haven't faked my own death. Yeah, that's the one.
Right. Why don't we take a quick break really quick? Rubesco and Alasdair can chat about traveling
before
man.
My time. Yeah, I was the second manager. I was trained by the first manager, Mike Stead, who used to, when a customer came in and was mean, would keep a 5-bar gate counter on the till, and as they left, would make a note of it, and then just go, "They're going to have an accident," and go off on his day, and he would decide that he had psychically caused them to trip over. as soon as they're out of view.
See, I just mutter, I wish people who cut me off in traffic, I mutter that they have 4 flat tires and a dead cell phone battery.
Yes.
You were manager there when Wendy met Greg.
Yes. Yes, indeed. Wendy and I have known each other for a frankly ridiculous amount of time, and every single interaction we've had has been a delight.
Yes.
Even that time you stole my cake in character.
I remember. And on that note, it has been about an hour and a half. So why don't we take a little bit of break, everybody? Get up and stretch if you haven't. Moved around, refill drinks, maybe get a snack, all that good stuff. And we will come back with some delightful brain sorbet to wrap up our evening. All right? We will be right back. And welcome back. Actually, that's an escape pod line, isn't it? Or isn't that Podcastle?
And we're back. Yes.
And welcome back. Yeah, exactly.
Hi, folks. Loop and Rebexo, whilst I remember, if you have not gone there before, there is an incredibly good coffee shop in York called the Perky Peacock,
Yay!
which is in one of the bridge towers.
I don't remember which one.
Just across from Museum Gardens. Basically, if you put Museum Gardens on your right and head across the bridge, the tower directly in front of you is the Perky Peacock. And they have gone through...
By where all of the kayakers and rowers
yeah,
with their
it's
boats.
Right, it's right by the rowing club. It's gone through, I think, 3 changes of ownership since I've known it. It is literally in, I believe, a 12th century tower attached to the bridge. And it's amazing. And every ownership group I've seen use it has done really good stuff with it.
It's the one on Skeldergate
That's
Bridge.
the one.
I love it. It's one of my favorite places. They make really good coffee. Ben is asking which shooter game he should play next Sunday stream and voted for Boyfriend Dungeon. Oh, nice. Good to know. Boyfriend Dungeon is fun. Going to the dunge. Yes.
Boyfriend Dungeon is a good time.
Yeah, Perky Peacock. That's correct.
Perky Peacock, that's the
Hey,
one.
I wonder, have they released the extra character DLC? The surfer dude who's an axe?
Boyfriend Dungeon. Explain about how the surfer dude
Okay,
can be an
so
axe.
the central conceit of Boyfriend Dungeon is that there are certain individuals who have the ability to turn into weapons. That no reason is given. And that you are on summer vacation and your brother, I think it is, has a sublet because he's moved in with his girlfriend, so you can be in town for a couple of months just for fun. And he encourages you to maybe get out and see some people and do some dating. And so there's lots of different people you can meet and that you can date or that you can just be friends with. There are lots of different relationship options, including asexual ones. And at least one non-binary character. When I played it, and there's a vampire, because I don't know.
Who's kind of a tool.
Well, yeah, there's a K-pop star. There's a lot of different characters that you can date. There's a kitty who is a very nice little story quest, which is the completely non-romantic storyline, which I really liked. And you can, kind of run through everybody's little dialogue, and the way you like train them and level them up is there are haunted shopping malls that you explore and get stuff, and sometimes the stuff are items you give them that make them like you more, standard relationship gift kind of system.
And some of the stuff you fight in there is incredible. There's lots of kind of old rotary telephone spiders and stuff.
Yeah, visually it's quite fun. There's a couple of different like themed dungeons.
And good evening to Bruce.
Oh, good evening to Bruce. Yes, very much so. Everybody say hello to Bruce. There's a kitty. Yes, the cat storyline is really sweet. I really liked it. And I think the cat weapon are the claws.
It's also one of the best written cats I've seen in video games. If I say it reminded me of Top Cat, I am paying it a huge compliment in that, to my mind, this and Top Cat are two of the very few examples of stories that really embody that cat. Not only will I fuck around, but I will find out, and it will be your problem kind of mindset.
What weapon would you want to turn into if you could boyfriend dungeon into a weapon?
I'm thinking for you a gavel or something like that.
It would have to be something melee based, because as much as I might aspire to the archer and sniper aesthetic, anytime you give me any option to get up close, personal, and dirty with a melee fight, that's the one I pick.
Or knuckle dusters,
Yeah, exactly. It would be something. Can I have whatever the Omni Blade is from Mass Effect? Is that an option? That's my perfect option. Just, get in there and start swinging.
Going back to your question about...
A steel chair! I love it, Bessie. That's a great option.
Going back to your question about Boyfriend Dungeon DLC, there is an event on June 11th, 10:30 a.m. Pacific time called Future of Play, and they have said we have big DLC news coming in hot during that, and there is artwork of Jonah the Axe Dude and the other romance option whose name I do not know.
Ooh. June 11th, you say?
Mm-hmm.
Let me write that down along with my pilot's license note.
And she really did write down the pilot's license note.
Yeah.
There you go. Tweets in the chat, because I can do that now.
Yes, you can. You can multitask. I'm very proud of you. Right. June 11th, Boyfriend Dungeon news. Very much.
Oh. Massive anime gavel? We all know what weapon you would use.
A massive anime gavel would be awesome.
Or Ramona's colossal pixel hammer from Scott Pilgrim vs. the World.
That would be cool.
Luke, did you successfully yeet a milkshake at Nigel Farage?
That would be a good weapon to be in Boyfriend Dungeon. A milkshake that you yeet at fascists. Love it.
Oh, superb.
Excellent. All fascists.
Please congratulate Paul from me, and please tell him that this is one of the big reasons why every time I go voting somewhere, I carry a dairy-based drink with me.
Nice. Very nice. All right, so we do a shenanigan?
Go on then.
So, all right, let me find my notes. Hold on. Yes, our shenanigans tonight are Weird Questions by, oh my gosh, Galliastra.
Hold on, let me take a run at this. I
Yes.
need words. I word good. Gallus Rostomegalus.
Okay, fine. That works. How about do you want to start us off? So you do the first two paragraphs, and then I'll do the next one, and then we'll get into it.
Yeah. You
Great.
want to do content warnings?
Yes, thank you very much. Shenanigan content warnings are references to death and dying, mental health and trauma, and crimes. And just as a reminder, I'm going to put it doesn't look like the link is in there, but if you follow the Bedtime Stories CW link, you will find more detailed content warnings. They can be spoilery, but they are there for you if you need them. Right.
This is from the magnificently named Chickens of Unusual Size.
Kevin.
Weird questions. If I'm somewhere where there are educational personnel, museum docents, Q&A zookeepers, park rangers, public school teachers, professors, etc., I have a question I'd like to ask them. What is the weirdest question someone has ever asked you?
I say weird and not dumb because even buck wild questions can have important answers. But whoever I ask it to usually has to think about it for a bit, then comes out with something different each time. And I love every single answer because it's better answered because it just warms my heart out there to know people are trying to understand the world a bit better, no matter how limited their starting point. A collection of favorites to date.
Art museum host. A man once asked me, can you help me find someone? And if you can't, can you find someone who can? Which I always thought would be a great title for an artwork.
Yeah, it's nice. Park ranger. I'm so glad the Japanese couple asked me, is bear spray like mosquito spray and it goes on the jacket or on the bear? Instead of just trying it. Oh gosh.
Zookeeper. A man once pointed at the live red-tailed hawk I had out for a demo and said, aren't those extinct? We eventually figured out he meant endangered, but I hear that question every time I see a red-tailed man.
Oh, I love that. That's nice. Primary school teacher. About every other year, a student asks me what part of the school I sleep in at night, because clearly I live here. I tell them I sleep under the bleachers in the gym, but it's actually the nurse's office.
Professor, a student asked me, so how do I use this in a conversation when my aunt is wine drunk at Thanksgiving and being a jerk again? Which honestly is a really fair question about philosophy and honestly kind of changed how I teach rhetoric.
That's a cool point. Natural history docent. A woman once asked me what the difference between a million and a billion was. Kind of pieced together that she just left her church for her safety and was learning about Earth's natural history for the first time. No one else was there because it had been snowing, so I walked her through the Hall of Time and answered as many of her questions as I could. She was bewildered, but really trying. It always struck me as a very brave thing to do, to try and understand all of that while fresh out of a dangerous situation. I hope it helped.
That's amazing.
That's a really nice one.
Forensic scientist.
Oh, God.
People ask me how to commit murder all the time. But if you really hate someone, stealing their identity causes much more suffering and is a lot harder to get caught at. Really, forensic scientist. Processing some rage. A guy did ask me if working at a body farm was creepy and did not like that it was okay until you learned that decayed human fingers are a deer's favorite midwinter snack.
Ooh.
Crunchy.
Yeah, this is why you should never, ever, ever mess around with service or support staff. One secretary you piss off can end your life, or at least ruin it, because, you know, they have access to all your travel details and your personal credit cards, and yeah. Zookeeper. People call us because they think they found an escaped animal or the time, or they think their neighbor's husky is a wolf. One guy asked me if his dog was part hyena because it had spots. But that one guy really did have a tiger in his tool shed that one time, so we try to take them seriously.
Meteorologist. A guy once emailed me about how hard you'd have to fan a tornado to make it start spinning in the other direction, and included a picture of him holding up a box fan at an approaching tornado. We printed it out for the work
Do you know
fridge.
that that's a legitimate concern?
Wasn't there something where like Floridians had to be told don't shoot at the
Don't shoot at the
tornado?
tornadoes. Yes, and there are certain states in the South, Florida, where they have to run public service announcements. Please do not shoot at the natural phenomena. It's not going to work. Oh, park ranger. I was giving a talk on the Yellowstone supervolcano, and a guy asked if after it erupted, the earth would be hollowed out. I suppose I was just relieved that he understood that the earth isn't flat.
The thing is, of course, that what he gets wrong there is the Earth has always been hollow, and that's where Kong's people warred with the distant ancestors of Godzilla in times past. Moving on.
Read the next one.
Primary school teacher. A student once asked me where she could sell her bones online so she could buy a dog. Which, same.
Another natural history docent. A guy asked us if I had a time machine and managed to kill and cook a T-Rex, what would it have tasted like? I applaud you, sir. I'm surprised this wasn't a 10-year-old child. And every paleontologist on staff decided to take him deadly seriously. They did research to learn about fat distribution and read up on culinary science to learn what flavors meant, even did chemical analysis on the bones. They concluded that it'd be tough, no evidence of juicy fat pockets, bitter, carnivores tended to taste foul, and would probably kill him because heavy metals travel up the food chain, and T-Rex accumulated a lot of the cadmium that was in the dirt in the late Cretaceous. We wrote him a letter with our findings, and he sent us back a drawing of him and his buddies cooking a T-Rex over fire, and all of them throwing up and dying. And it's my favorite drawing in the whole entire world. Can you just see a time traveler? Like, can you imagine, like, Journey to the Center of the Earth or the Time Machine? And he just, you know how they do that whole tearful, put the photo of my love next to the controls. This guy whips out a photo of these buddies eating a T-Rex, pins it under the altimeter, and goes, let her rip! And just pulls the time machine cord. That would just be so amazing.
I actually, the thing I love about that is there was a somewhat infamous 2000 AD strip when I was a kid called Flash, in which the fast food industry decides to solve its problems by harvesting dinosaurs from the past, because developing time travel
was easier than fixing a corporate bottom line.
Right, and giving power armor and high-tech weaponry and building meat processing facilities so people can go shoot a T-Rex in the dick is actually, much easier than veganism, apparently. But this thing ran for a really long time, and like almost all 2000 AD strips, it basically boils down to, what if we fucked stuff up?
God bless science fiction. That's what it's there for. Get it out of your system here, in paper and ink, where it can hopefully harm less.
But I actually now really want a follow-up to this, where you find out the company went bankrupt because T-Rex tastes like ass.
Right? It's just a little, footnote at the end. However, despite all their adventures, they ultimately failed because T-Rex tastes like ass.
We've got another 30 cadmium lawsuits. Sell the meeting room doors. This sucks. Next issue, the CEO files for unemployment.
Oh, gosh. That would be hilarious. Just the tearful pins the photo underneath the little cage. Oh, it just sounds so cute. I love it.
That's going to tickle me for the rest of the day. That's great.
I want fan art of this drawing. I want to know if that drawing exists somewhere on the internet, and if so, I must find it. I absolutely must
The
find
fact it was stuck out, it was printed off and stuck to the work fridge. That is Jortsian in its embrace of successful embrace of internet culture at its finest. You know?
Very, very, very much so.
And remember,
Slain,
become unbutterable.
become unbutterable. Dr. Loop says something about Slain. I don't know.
Yes,
what that...
Slain the Horned God, or Slain the Barbarian. Particularly famous 2000 AD strip based on Irish myth, in the sense that it met Irish myth a couple of times at a party and got shit-faced together, about a barbarian who has the ability to undergo what's called the warp spasm, when his body suddenly becomes huge and muscular but horribly deformed and he kills people. And the whole running gag with it is that his sidekick, Ukko, who is kind of proto-Jaskier, um, is a dwarf who keeps kind of massively inflating his reputation, and the eventual payoff is that
A hype
Ukko is
man.
actually a pretty solid journalist and has been reporting all the ridiculous shit that Slane gets up to.
Cool, and in a warp. Oh, this is getting very bizarre.
Warp spasm, Cuckoo-Lane. Those of you of a certain age, God, in based in the UK, will, I suspect, have laughed entirely too hard at one line in Spaced, which speaks to 2000 AD, which is the thing about, you remember when Johnny Alpha was killed in Strontium Dog and you cried, who stayed with you? Like, oh, shut up, Spaced, you suck. Johnny Alpha being the lead character of Strontium Dog, one of the other long-running 2000 AD characters about the Search and Destroy Agency, who are mutant bounty hunters hated and feared by the world that they get paid for bringing in the criminals from, who live on a satellite and take contracts and come down to Earth, and people are like, you suck, mutant, and Johnny Alpha, who happens to have the mutant power of being hot, and also...
I thought that was John Constantine.
and like X-rays and X-ray eyes and shit. It's like, yeah, well, so do you, non-muty. And his buddy's a Viking.
The End.
The end.
By Jason Mendoza.
Yes. Someone pointed out, and I forget who it was, but someone pointed out a little while ago that there is a Marvel Universe analog to John Constantine, who is an ex-cop called Pete Wisdom.
Pete Wisdom.
Pete Wisdom, beautifully described by his creator as a 1970s TV copper trapped in hell. That he's just this guy who's like, I just want to nick people and go get pissed. And he's an X-Men character, so he's surrounded by lots of beautiful people in spandex saying, I love you, but I must destroy the universe. And he's like, oh, fucking hell is this shit? Because Legends of Tomorrow has finished, and I would encourage anyone who hasn't seen it and has the ability to see it, please do so, because Legends of Tomorrow, especially after the first couple of seasons, is fucking great. It's also gay as hell in the best possible way, and featured for an extended period of time John Constantine,
my favorite Welsh gobshite,
as played by Matt Ryan, who, and I believe his first episode, as he's about to make out with one of the other characters, she looks at him and goes, are you really this damaged? And he goes, God, I hope so, and rips his shirt off. And anyway, he is not presently employed, because obviously the show is finished. And
Matt Ryan, you mean, not John Constantine?
Yeah, well, I mean, John's always employed. Someone pointed out all you have to do is dye his hair black, and he could literally walk across the lot. And when they inevitably roll the X-Men out, you literally just introduce Pete by having him in the back going, all right, love, don't mind me.
Wait a minute. Yeah, exactly.
Yes, Constantine is canonically in the animated movies King Shark's bottom.
Yeah, they are dating, absolutely.
Which is just fantastic. Bonnie, it is magnificent. It is absolutely magnificent.
Oh, yeah, it really is very fun. And they do the Lucifer crossover at one point as well.
Yes,
Constantine
during
shows up in Lucifer. And I'm very fond of those 120 seconds of television, because it's just like a hotness explosion.
The two prettiest Welshmen in modern TV go, all right.
Right? It's like some sort of ritual has been accomplished. I love it.
Those of you who also want to experience what Matt Ryan looks like when he's not in a very good TV show and have access to Disney Plus, one of the Criminal Minds spin-offs, Suspect Behavior, features him as an, let me get this right, because it was the early noughties and it was a different time, a PTSD-riddled former SAS Special Forces operator sniper,
yes,
who has decided to join the FBI profiling
as like penance or something,
to redeem himself for the awful shit he's done fighting the war on terror.
I wasn't paying attention to the plot. I just really think Matt Ryan's hot, and it was a stretch.
He was in his like early 30s when he shot this as well, so it's like, okay, brief sidebar. We have a little bit of time. Possibly one of my favorite unfucking believably stupid movies is the movie adaptation of Dinar Kuntz's Phantoms.
Yo,
and I love
was
this.
The bomb in Phantoms, yo!
Yes, he is the voice of Edward in Assassin's Creed Black Flag.
That
That's
is
also not wrong.
correct.
Shut it, lads.
Shut it, lads!
There are two reasons why I love the movie version of Phantoms.
Thank you,
The
Hawkeye.
first is there is a moment where Peter, the late great Peter O'Toole, who is playing Professor Exposition, is flown into town to explain, to basically tell people how boned they all are, and he's in the troop carrier with all the incredibly disposable troops. And in the middle of all of this, the guy briefing them goes, and of course, as you know, Professor Griffin's name was found in town. Now, Team 1, you're going to, and goes on for like 30 seconds, and hand on a stack of Bibles. O'Toole does the best slow burn horror in movie history, because he spends those full 30 seconds going, and his face just becomes this mask of existential terror, crossed with, how fucking dare you not tell me that before I got on the plane? It's amazing. And
Wendy, there is no plot.
no plot.
We're just riffing. We're talking about how hot Matt Ryan is and how that makes up for a lot of very bad excuses to put him in front of a television screen.
Yes. And the other reason why Phantoms is worth your time is because Ben Affleck plays a town sheriff who's an ex-FBI agent who left when he had a traumatic experience. And this is the early 90s. So Affleck is 12. He was presumably Doogie Howser, supervisory special agent, and then he retires.
I love how you carry all the love for Ben Affleck all by yourself, all on your own two little shoulders.
I was the bomb in Phantoms, yo.
And on that note,
anyway, shall I tell the nice people where they can find us?
Let's tell the nice people where they can subject themselves to more of this shenanigan.
The next time you can encounter us is this Friday, when the latest issue of our Hugo-nominated newsletter, The Full Lid, will go live. At the moment, that is looking like we'll have two stories in it. One is a discussion.
That's fortunate, because that's the format.
Thankfully, I've written things. Not all of them. Been a long week. But at the moment, it's looking like it's a story about how the fantastic changes that are made to Salvor Hardin and Gail Dornick in the TV adaptation of Foundation embody the platonic ideal of what happens when you successfully adapt a book.
More importantly, when you successfully adapt an old science fiction book with new...
Full of dudes. Just absolutely ramo with dudes.
Yeah. Hugo! Anyway, let's talk about
And
Hugo later.
the second story is going to be about Galaxy, the Prettiest Star, which is a graphic novel written by a long-term friend of ours called Jadzia Axelrod, which is beautiful and is absolutely the trans-friendly narrative that we need to read in these darkest fucking times. So it's going to be those, and there'll be bits of Vangelis. And
you do not have to make me a full-size one.
It's also possible that we'll be playing out with the Kilda movie, and if not, we'll just be writing about that at another time.
Yes.
Anyway, that's Friday.
That's Friday.
On Sunday,
more fun with gravity as we return to Outer Wilds.
Yes, indeed.
Where I'm trying to remember, we discovered even more things very last minute. We finished finding that last scroll wall, and we realized that dark seed, bramble, thorny, pokey planet
kind of ate the ship.
Is somewhere we're going to have to go pretty soon. But I still haven't been able to finish. Oh, no, we finally got to the Hanging City. Remember? And the black hole generator?
The black hole forge that we can move
that
and
was
does
the word.
a thing, and we haven't figured out what it does yet.
Yep, exactly. So we're doing a whole lot more of that, which is really, really fun. Have a good night, KDB.
Thanks, KDB.
Good one. And then we will be back here next week with, I think, we're going to have a special guest next week. We're hoping to have Lillian Boyd, who is our composer, and we can talk about how she works on music and the various projects that she's involved with, and just kind of hang out because she's awesome. And it would be really nice to have a good time. No spoilers exactly, but have fun there. Yeah, it's going to be all pokey and making my suit explode, and I'm not going to enjoy it. I'm very much not going to enjoy it when I get to the pokey planet. I still need to figure out how to get around all the stupid ghost matter everywhere. I'm not convinced it's actually supposed to be something you're supposed to deal with. It's just designed to make you have to think other ways about going to
It
places.
does seem to be around a surprising amount of doors.
Yeah, it's like well, you can't go through this way, or how good are you at flying, right? So
And the
we'll see.
answer is, literally, you have the license.
Well, I do not. It's on my to-do list. See, pilot's license. I haven't earned it yet. Very much so. And then, like we said, we'll be back next week, hopefully with Lillian. If not, we'll find another scary story.
Might be another story. There's a bunch of short little games, all sorts kinds of good stuff.
Yeah, we've had a couple of good game candidates we've been talking about. I'm not sure if we can both play a game in split screen like this. I'm gonna have to figure that out. We have a game of just playing with the pokey ghost map. Well, it would be a very short stream because we get bored. Ow. Ow. Ow.
I jump and watching the fryer. Ow.
Exactly.
Ow. Ow.
And yeah, so that's where we will be. Oh, and then after that weekend, the Jubilee weekend, it's ArchiveCon, where you'll see just way entirely too much of us for a weekend, and it will be delightful. I think that's everything. Did we miss anything?
I think that's about it.
All right.
Done before midnight. Check us out.
I know. I'm trying to hurry because Wendy's going to turn into a pumpkin at midnight, so I have to, we've got 3 minutes. We got to wrap it up.
Fantastic. Thank you so much for joining us, folks. We really appreciate it. We will see you again in print on Friday and in person on Sunday.
Yep.
Have an excellent week. I've been Alasdair.
And I've been Marguerite.
And this has been fun. We'll see you next time.
We'll see you next time, everybody. Good night.